Hey, everybody. Welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking to Paula Thomas. Let's talk loyalty. Paula, it's great to see you today. I always love talking about marketing. Just a quick overview. You, with over 25 years of blue chip marketing experience, you are now an award-winning podcaster hosting weekly interviews for your show, Let's Talk Loyalty, the world's first podcast for loyalty marketing professionals. So let's talk about that. I love marketing. I love talking about marketing. How do you define marketing? You know, I feel like everybody's got a little bit different of a definition. How do you define it?
I think it's a great question, John. So first of all, thanks for the opportunity to be on your show. Yeah,
Thanks for being here.
Great. I mean, I started my career in the airline business, John, which, as you can imagine, is intensely competitive.
Yeah.
And I started in sales, which is super hard work. And I guess, you know, so many jobs do require, you know, proactive people connecting on the sales side. But when I started to understand the power of marketing and creating a desire for your products, which almost could potentially eliminate the need for sales, that became something that I found extremely appealing. So to me, marketing is something where you create a desire for a product and the customer actually then comes to buy it from you. So I don't have to go out and do my sales to the same extent because the brand or the product is exceptional and it's tapping into a real need that the customer has. And once you identify that and commit to excellence, to me, that's exceptional marketing.
Yeah. Let's talk about creating desire. Right. And so there's so much to unpack there because it's about messaging. It's about understanding, you know, who your buyer pool is, what they'll pay, what their pain points are, how you're the solution to that. And I think you got to do it in under 7 to 10 seconds.
Pretty much, John.
Yeah. So unpack that a little bit because I think a lot of companies aren't as clear as they could be. And then there's the what you're saying and what you're visually showing and, you know, all of that kind of, it's a big question, I know, but unpack it a little bit.
Sure. Well, one of the things that I really believe, John, is that if you can have a mindset around creating loyalty to your customers, that really takes care of the overarching intention of how the business should be run. So for me, when we talk about...
Can we pause there for 1 second? Because I want to dive into the word loyalty.
Okay,
great. I think, you know, when I hear loyalty, it's about creating ambassadors, right?
Yes.
People who talk about your product, who use your product, who listen to your podcast, right? And so the loyalty can have a very short shelf life, a medium shelf life, or a long-term shelf life.
Yeah.
And so let's just talk about the word loyalty and how we define that as what we need.
Yes, exactly. Well, how we would in the industry, John, we would explicitly understand the difference between transactional loyalty and emotional loyalty.
Yeah, talk about them.
So that's super important. So I think certainly when loyalty programs began, it was purely to drive transactional behavior, starting in the airline business where I came from, where you need to differentiate your product in some way because the underlying service is often perceived as being the same. So in order to differentiate, you start to identify those core segments of customers and reach out and connect with them. And over time, consumers have become jaded by the concept of this transactional approach because actually we all want to have better connections in our life. So for me, and very much actually, you know, the reason I called my podcast Let's Talk Loyalty and not Let's Talk Loyalty Programs was to create this emotional connection. And it has amazed me some of the topics that have come up on my show that really do drive loyalty, and they're not loyalty programs. They're super different. Concepts like simplicity. You know, some of the most valuable companies in the world excel at simplicity.
Yeah.
And if you want a loyal customer, they first of all need to know who you are. They need to understand, appreciate, and to your point, John, then they will advocate for you. But that's actually quite far down the journey. You got to take them on that journey first and foremost.
Right. Let's talk about that journey because, you know, I think the game of loyalty, the game of marketing is it's long term. right?
It is.
There's nothing short term about it. And so when you look at creating an emotional connection with someone and really opening up your heart and
Yeah.
taking thinking away, out of the equation in many cases,
Yeah.
talk about the not only the long game, but the delayed gratification that you may see. Because I think, like in anything, it takes 17 phone calls before somebody calls you back. It takes 8 emails before somebody returns your email, right? Like these are just studies that if you understand them, then it
Yeah.
makes everything easier. But now let's wrap that into marketing and loyalty.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right, John, because loyalty is very much evolving into the field of CX, or customer experience.
Correct.
And I'm sure plenty of your listeners, I'm sure you're very familiar with that. And I really believe that's an important evolution of the industry, because again, loyalty professionals are very good at identifying that 20% of your customer base that drives 80% of your revenue. So we excel at doing that, and then incentivizing profitable behavior change.
Yeah.
But actually, there's a lot of things that can be very quickly fixed if you have this loyalty mindset. So we don't always have the budget to necessarily reward 100% of our customers equally, but they should all have a good experience. I mean, in this day and age with technology the way it is,
Right.
if you have that intention to create a loyal relationship with your customers, the objective in my mind is, first of all, demonstrate your loyalty to them, and then you can expect them to be loyal back to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes, as everybody's waiting for the other party to go first,
Yeah.
So we have to demonstrate our loyalty to our customers.
I love what you're talking about. I want to dive into a little bit of the customer experience a little bit more, because the customer experience, I think, and what I find, Paula, is today consistency is so important. Consistency and predictability, right? Where people can, I think it's something that the world doesn't have anymore, because everything is so on demand, right? So it used to be, I mean, I'm 49, so I'm dating myself, but it's like, you knew when certain TV shows were on, everything was very predictable. Totally. Today, it's not predictable. So I don't know if you're on Facebook. I don't know if you're on Instagram. I don't know if you're on an email list. I don't know which one means more to you. So the predictability of being in front of people has to be consistent. And one of the things I find, I want you to touch on this, is people go. They do. And then they say, I talked to somebody this morning. I said, I was doing it. I was doing this. And then I just got burnt out and I stopped. But they're out of sight, out of mind, because somebody's behind you doing more. So talk a little bit about consistency and what that means.
It's actually a brilliant and very timely question, John, because one of the big trends we see for loyalty marketers is, for example, the use of subscription-based loyalty in very unexpected sectors. So I think we're all very familiar with Amazon Prime, or subscribing to software or entertainment services.
Can't live without Amazon Prime.
Totally.
Without Amazon Prime and PayPal, I couldn't be as effective. Yeah.
Totally, John. I totally agree.
Yeah.
But for example, Panera Bread, I know is an extraordinary example of consistency by creating a subscription-based program for their loyalty club. So you can pay a fixed amount of $8.99 and have unlimited coffee every month. So that, particularly at a time of pandemic, when people are a bit freaked out, totally unstable, then if you can say, look, okay, just come to us for your coffee, the rest is good.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, the cross-sell, the upsell, they have had extraordinary results. So
I bet.
Totally. And as podcasters, John, clearly we know the importance of consistency. If we don't ship a show every week, we lose our audience. So
correct. Right. I do. I'm 7 days. I'm live episodes Monday through Friday, 2 episodes on my podcast platforms every day.
That's unbelievable.
But it's consistency. It's funny. You talked, this is just a funny story. I'm an Amazon, my family, we're all Amazon Prime, and we have a boat, and one of the things we have on our boat is fruit juice. And so I ordered extra fruit juice because we were out, and then every month, like 2 more boxes of fruit juice kept. I thought, maybe, I know my kids really love them, so maybe they just, and my wife. But then I accidentally bought it under a subscription, so I was getting and so I think it's just 2 cents. Be careful when you click out of Amazon that you're not buying
For
the
sure.
subscription.
Yeah.
I find, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that is a great point, John, because it comes to the point about the mindset of loyalty. I think if you subscribe to something, it's equally important to be able to unsubscribe.
Yeah, easy.
Because I think there's been so much of this hidden, let's trick them into doing it, make it really hard. And that just upsets people because they get frustrated. They don't trust your brand then.
Correct.
So if you want to be loyal to your customer, make it easy to unsubscribe to.
I'm so glad you brought that up. When the pandemic, last December, I started a private coaching group. It's a monthly, most of the stuff I do is one-on-one or group, high end, but I started group coaching, which is affordable for all people.
Yeah.
And but I created a back end specifically so if people want to unsubscribe, it's month to month, they can do that, because that was the number one piece of advice that I got from multiple people. If you don't make it easy to subscribe, they may not even start the process.
Exactly. You got to earn their trust and show them that, we're not trying to trick you here. We want you to be happy to be here with us.
Yeah. So let's talk. I love everything we're talking about. Let's go. Let's talk a little bit more about marketing, right? Kind of the ABCs of marketing. And so, what are some of the biggest marketing mistakes that people make? Maybe 1, 2, or 3, and get them into alignment and raise their awareness, raise their consciousness of how they should be thinking. Because I think a lot of times I see marketing and people just have it off a smidge, but that smidge is not where they need to be.
I mean, it's so varied by sector, John. So, if you talk about airline marketing, for example, that's very classically perhaps TV campaigns and, the communication style to drive the aspiration and the inspiration. That has been extremely successful for many years. But I really think digitalization has changed marketing, as we know.
Yeah.
And I really think you just have to be more communicative across multiple channels.
Yeah.
So I think the mistakes people make is not paying attention actually to what customers are saying. So to various discussions I've had with people going, I'm trying to send emails when actually the customer, for example, might want to be communicated to on their mobile phone, in a push notification. So I think the whole concept of personalization is talked about hugely and executed very badly.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really big mistake, is just assuming, great, we'll do our email newsletter and that's our job done.
Yeah.
Another big mistake.
Can I comment on that? I just want to comment on it because I think listening to your clients is so important. And I think this is an easy win that doesn't cost an easy way to get into the mind of the customer that doesn't cost any money, takes a little bit of time, but time really well spent. Just to kind of, as an example, when I do a keynote and keynotes are, I think, coming back. I don't know what the Delta variant, but I think they are. I've just been I just signed 4 on, so I don't know if they're actually going to happen. But one of the things I do is I'll get hired by a company and they'll say, here's what we want you to talk about. And then I say, okay, but I'd like to talk to 10 people who are going to be in the audience because I want to know what they want to walk away with. So it allows me to really customize specifically to what the audience wants. And so the idea that I'm throwing out there is for every company in the world, just call a minimum. Oh, so after I call 5 people, the messages are pretty much the same. So if you call 5 of your customers every week, 1 a day, you can accelerate and grow your marketing and get so many ideas from that 5-minute exercise every single day. So I just want to tell you, because you talking about listening to your customers, sometimes it's not just listening to what they say, because one negative feedback means that then you're reactive. But one person speaking, sometimes they say is up to 15 who feel the same way. But the more proactively you can call 1 a day, you're golden. Yeah.
And I think there's a double whammy, John. You're absolutely right. So first of all, you gain the knowledge. There's no cost associated with that call. You dedicate the time, you make the commitment, and you make the calls. But I also think what you achieve with that is you really create a sense of feeling acknowledged, feeling seen, and that customer feels $1 million. Yeah. So when you look at ways to drive customer loyalty, they will appreciate that in much more ways than if there was, a big brand campaign, or you're sending out
Correct.
emails. Like,
Right.
honestly, it's super powerful.
Grassroots. It's grassroots. And I think, and I'd love your opinion on this too. We're talking external, but that
Yeah,
works equally, if not more powerfully, internal.
for sure.
Internally. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you mean with employees, John, or do you
Correct.
mean?
Correct.
Yeah.
Employees, team members, recruits. Yes.
Yes, everyone loves to feel heard, feel appreciated, and the number one reason that people leave a business or a brand is they just don't feel they're being acknowledged
Yeah.
or appreciated in a way that is personal. One of my best examples actually was a hotel chain, and they literally sat down every month as a leadership team and made those calls. So 4 or 5 people appreciating and telling the top guests, you know what, we loved this, we loved that, and they
Right.
know 5 members of the leadership team are calling me to say thank you. It's
Right.
unbelievable.
Right.
So, but again, it's a mindset of acknowledging those
Right.
executive,
Right.
exceptional customers.
And talk about a leading activity that would cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands to get that intel
Yeah.
from someone or something or some campaign. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love what you're talking about. All right. So I stopped your flow as you were talking about kind of marketing, mistakes. I don't know if you can fall back
Yeah.
into that.
Well, sure. I mean, the other one I see, which is, I think, a really big problem, and it's part of the data capture personalization piece, but it's this concept of, taking so much data in. And I always use the example, John, of date of birth, because we all capture that data ideally to understand the demographics of our customers. But I think then you set an expectation with the customer. They're kind of going, okay, signed up to your loyalty program. You know what's my date of birth. So what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
And so many companies take that data, use it internally for their own purposes, and forget to acknowledge that customer has a birthday.
Yeah.
And so I really think, don't capture data or information unless you're going to use it for the benefit of that customer. So I think that's a big mistake in marketing as well. Like, let's think about human beings. We all have one day a year where we're super special. So let's do something for them.
Yeah.
And the third one, just to quickly touch on, I often think that there's this idea that it has to be, some big acknowledgement or some big reward. But I think there's a huge trend towards micro rewards. So I did huge campaigns in Ireland when I worked in the loyalty industry there, where we would set up free cups of coffee for customers at particular times, or a nice bar of chocolate from their, local supermarket that they could go and pick up in their whatever flavor they would choose from.
Yeah.
So this kind of micro reward, it's super affordable to do, but actually somebody's like, oh, look what, the energy company gave me today. It was amazing. Super powerful.
Yeah, I love that. When I was it reminds me of when I was in commercial real estate. I started my business coaching business 6.5 years ago, but I was in commercial real estate for 13 years. And what I would do is when I would get a referral, I would send someone a $5 Starbucks card. Because it looked expensive. It looked high end, and everybody loves a free coffee at Starbucks because we all go. But it's like you look at the price, you're like, how is a cappuccino $5? It's like, so it's a really. So I agree with you. The micro wins, the micro examples that you gave, those are so important and so simple. They can be complicated. So I love the example. Yeah. So let's talk about, before we move into a quick speed round, let's talk loyalty, your podcast. Tell everybody about the podcast.
Thanks, John. Yeah, I started Let's Talk Loyalty 2 years ago, partly from frustration of my own inability to find time to read the industry magazines. And I found that actually reading print or on screen just wasn't working. So audio works brilliantly. Mm-hmm. Nobody had a podcast about loyalty marketing. It's a super important industry. So I release 2 shows every week. On a Tuesday, I have a 5-minute show, which is super quick and easy. And Thursday is an interview exactly like this, probably 40 minutes long. Yeah. So 130 shows in, 2 years on, and Let's Talk Loyalty has found a brilliant audience. So super proud of it.
I love it. I love it. All right. You ready for a quick speed round, Paula?
Oh, give it to me. I don't know what that means.
Favorite book and why?
Don't Make Me Think. Because the title is so genius.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
Just do it. If you're not embarrassed when you look back in a year's time, then you're not trying hard enough.
Isn't that true? I like, it makes me feel vulnerable thinking it, but I think the same way. I look back and
Yeah.
it's like, it's comfortable, it's uncomfortable. And I love that. Finish this sentence. One thing every person needs to start doing differently when it comes to marketing is.
Listening to their customers.
Okay. I love it. One way people can raise their awareness and consciousness when it comes to marketing is.
Notice what is happening that impresses you, that actually makes you feel differently about a brand.
One word that describes you.
Happy.
And fast forward 100 years, what do you want your legacy to be?
Making a difference in a way I'm proud of.
I love it. I love it. Paula, it has been a pleasure talking with you. I feel like this was, in a way, a master's class in marketing, and I loved everything that you brought up. Tell everybody how they can connect with you and learn about your show and learn more about you.
Thanks, John. Yes, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So Paula Thomas, I think I'm the only one, or certainly easy to find. And yeah, letstalkloyalty.com. And of course, all of the podcast channels. Just subscribe to Let's Talk Loyalty.
Yeah, I love it. You're the only Paula Thomas, and I'm for sure the only John Dwoskin on LinkedIn. Right. Yeah.
Totally cool.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Paula, thank you. Think community. Loyalty, marketing, having the courage to look at it maybe differently than you are now, zooming out, educating yourself on a regular basis. People enjoy marketing. They enjoy stories. They want to be loyal. And if you take the thinking out of it and you understand what they need to hear and what their pain is, and you can be the solution, you will gain more ambassadors and more loyalty to your people. It takes a little bit of work, a lot more than people think, to get to simple. And so, Paula, I appreciate your time. Think community, always a pleasure. Paula, stay on for a moment, and let's talk loyalty.com. Thanks, Paula. That was great.
Thanks, John.